Welcome to ASSAT Analysts, the debate game show where the points definitely matter and we take things way too seriously. My name is Josh Johnson, and I'm joined here with my roommates, Nathaniel Jackson.
Yo.
And Kyle Jennis.
Howdy.
Stay tuned to find out who truly is the king of pulling random facts and arguments right out of their ass.
Welcome to this Wednesday's Bullshitter episode. We have our special guest, Bryce Poole. Bryce Poole, say hi.
Hello.
So today's Bullshitter episode topic is what is the best Stephen King film? We did exclude Stand By Me because it's not really in the spirit of October and Halloween. It's not really like a horror or thriller. And we also excluded The Shawshank Redemption because that's not fair.
We kind of did that one on accident. Like, none of us intentionally didn't pick
we
that
didn't
one.
vocalize that we weren't going to pick it, but then when we were all doing research and we realized that was Stephen King, because I actually didn't know it was Stephen King
Me neither.
before going into it.
Yeah.
And then I realized it was Stephen King. I was like, I'm not going to do that. That's not fair. So we all kind of collectively came to the conclusion that that's not fair.
Well, I will admit that I didn't do any research until earlier today, but the extensive research that I did, when I uncovered that it was that, we had already had the conversation about excluding Stand By Me because it didn't fit kind of the spirit of what we were trying to go for, and so...
I was actually the one who asked. I was like, oh, I'm going to do Stand By Me. And then we said, well, no, because it's not. And I was like, dang it. Heck.
Yeah, I love Stand By Me. I actually forgot that we had talked about excluding it, and so I was going to pick it, and then we talked about it the other night, and we were like, oh, yeah, we're not doing that. I was like, no.
So realistically, what we are doing is...
everything except Stand By Me and Shawshank Redemption.
Horror films and thriller films that are based off of the works of Stephen King.
Yes.
Is the more accurate way of summarizing what our topic actually is.
Correct. So, Kyle, what movie did you pick?
I picked The Langoliers.
What year was it made?
I think it was sometime in the I didn't remember the specific year, but it's sometime in the 90s.
Okay.
The CG on it looks god-awful, so it's definitely the 90s.
Yeah. Just as a reminder for our audience and for our special guest, Bryce, even though we were allowed to do research, research is still limited a decent amount. So if you had seen the movie, great. That helps a lot. As far as research outside of watching the movies, because you're allowed to watch them, you only got, if you're a researcher, a timer set for 10 minutes to do any additional research and write notes. And if you are the bullshitter, you got a timer for 60 seconds, 1 minute. So, all right. Josh, what movie did you pick?
I picked The Shining.
What year did that come out?
1980.
Cool. All right. I went with The Dark Tower, which admittedly is a little borderline for the vibe we're going for. It is a little bit more of an action thriller than it is like a thriller horror movie. But it did come out in 2017.
Okay, I was going to ask.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask when you
Is
grabbed
that
your
and
mic.
that's the original?
That is the original
Was there
movie.
another film?
There was not
made of it?
another film.
Okay.
If there was, I missed it. I don't think there was.
So you...
Pretty sure there was.
Okay.
All right, Bryce, what questions you got for us?
Okay, so
well, we haven't given a pitch or
We
anything.
haven't.
We haven't. Yeah, he was like,
I was
he basically just said
right
what
into
we
it.
picked.
We can
Like,
jump
if
right
you want
into
to jump
it.
right into questions,
yeah,
you
that's
can.
fine.
But
I'm going off of nothing.
Nathaniel, why is The Dark Tower the best action thriller or the best in this category from Stephen King's works?
Okay, so I went with The Dark Tower for a couple reasons. One, I actually did read the first of the 7 books in middle school, I think, is when I read it. I might have been a freshman in high school, but I remembered a little bit about it, not a ton. And then I remember I was in college when the movie came out. I was living in Florida, and I remember, actually, I think Planet of the Apes came out the same week or month or something like that. I went and saw Planet of the Apes and saw the poster for The Dark Tower. And was like, dude, I need to go. I loved that book. I need to go see that.
When did the book come out?
I don't know when the book came out. I'm not going to lie. I have no clue when the book
that's
came
fine.
out.
We're also talking about films.
I know there are 7
That's
books
true.
with an eighth book, which was written later that actually takes place in between the 4th and 5th book. But it's kind of from what I read, it's not exactly along the lines of the main story. It kind of takes place with some side characters in that in-between time. The Dark Tower has an incredible cast. Idris Elba is the main character. He is really well portrayed to the book, in my opinion. He's kind of like it's a very Westerner kind of sci-fi movie or story almost. Like it's there's a multiverse, parallel universes with a ton of like moments with characters from other Stephen King's works. There's a like small cinematic moment where they have like an it foreshadowing, and it's really just well done in the movie. There's characters. What the actual Dark Tower is it's the tower in between that holds all of the different universes together. Right, and there's something wrong with it, and so Idris Elba's character, who is actually kind of has this vendetta against the Black One, who is portrayed by Matthew McConaughey, all right. So he's yeah, which is awesome, and he does a good job. I will say the CG for being a 2017 movie isn't the greatest. There were other movies I think at the time that had better CG. Than it does have, but it was still like it was fine. It's nothing special. But basically, he has this vendetta against him, and there's this younger character. His name's Jake, who accidentally finds this portal, meets Idris Elba's character, and that's not how you say his last name.
Idris. I think it's just Idris.
Is it
Idris?
Idris Elba.
Idris
Okay.
Elba.
But they find out that there's something wrong with the Dark Tower, and so they're going to go try and fix it to keep the multiverse from collapsing on itself. I think it's kind of like the first Avengers movie for Stephen King. Like, if you think about it, like, now it doesn't necessarily feature those characters from the Stephen King universe, but it brings them all together. Like, it links all of the Stephen King stories because they are all their own universe. And it's like, essentially, this Western gunslinger, main character is going and he's trying to save all of these stories that Stephen King wrote. And Stephen King's an actual character in it, which is very interesting. Yeah. It's very brief, but
he cameos, I think, in a lot of the movie, or if not all of a lot of the movies that are based off of his books.
Yeah,
like is he in The Shining?
I don't think he is.
No.
Okay.
I don't remember him.
He is in the Langoliers. He's at the table at the end where one of the characters is visualizing having a meeting at the table. It's a very odd scene, but I'll get to it later.
Well, that's like a cameo.
Right. Well, yeah.
He by name is a character in this story.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It is Stephen King is a character.
So to clarify, when you say that the Dark Tower is holding the worlds apart, you mean the literal stories in Stephen King's?
Yes, like they are different. They are the different universes of Stephen King's stories.
Yeah. There's a whole thing where it's like all of the books he's written are somehow tied together, and the Dark Tower is the thing that holds all the books and the stories together.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I love it. First of all, I just love things like that. Like the first Avengers movie when I was middle school, high school, whenever that came out, was like whoa, this is actually happening. All these other movies that have come out to this point, they're actually all put together. This is awesome. And so just concepts like that where you're able to take all these different stories and in one way or another have characters from these other stories make appearances, even if they're not, like in Avengers, those characters are featured in our primary parts of the story. That's not the case with this. But
it's
it
more
is
like Pixar.
Yeah, like the Pixar theory. Like everything's kind of connected, but it's not. They're all their own thing. So yeah, I really did enjoy it. I will say the movie isn't that similar to the book. It definitely took some creative liberties, but it was still enjoyable.
Yeah, so and that's something similar that happened with The Shining. Was that it definitely took creative liberties, but I think they did it in a really good way. And the big influence on like creating this movie was making sure that everything kind of made sense and was able to tell. It made sense in a specific way that like the things that the characters did had reasoning to them and the motivations were accurate. But a lot of the set design and the way that the movie was actually put together was purposely nonsensical. Like if you actually look at like the structure of the hotel and some of the maps that you see and even just shots of it from the outside, it doesn't make any sense. You've got like windows that are in the middle of the buildings. There's everything inside from inside shots are like perfect right angles, but if you look at the wide shots of the actual building itself, there's all these like oblong angles and interesting things like that. There's doors that go to nowhere. The leveling of like the stairs in certain rooms doesn't make any sense. And it even just the space of like the actual size of the rooms on the inside doesn't make sense to the spacing of where the doors are and everything like that. And it is a very interesting way of telling a deceptively simple story about a man and his family quietly going insane.
Yeah, so I've actually not seen The Shining.
I saw it once in high school, and I don't remember a lot of it.
I think it is something that you would really like. Even as much as we talk about how we personally don't like horror movies or things like that, the score alone and just what they're able to do with the music and the sound is fantastic. Wendy Carlos was the one that put the score together, and it sets the tone in like the eeriness of just everything that's going on, and it's like it blurs it in a way where like what's going to happen, but it's how it's going to happen that really kind of freaks you out and puts things like a step back, and it plays on that like if you're like walking down like a street and you hear like a noise off to your right, like you automatically like get defensive and think about like, okay, well this, that could be something that's going to attack me. And then you look at it and there's nothing there. And that's almost scarier than if you were actually being attacked. It's that entire feeling throughout the entire movie. It was set up in a way that plays on that natural instinct of just anxiety.
Stephen King's been very vocal about the fact that he doesn't like The Shining. He hates the film adaptation.
Yeah,
because it does, like I said, it takes its creative liberties with the actual work that he did and the story that he wrote, but it in itself is a fantastic film for what the goal was.
Yeah.
So
it's titled. I think it's titled at least like Stanley. Is it Kubrick or Kubrick?
Yeah, Kubrick.
Yeah.
Kubrick's The Shining. So.
Yeah.
And he's done like I'm trying to think what other movies he's done. I don't really remember.
Space Odyssey?
Did he do Space Odyssey?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Kubrick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things is that like in other movies that he's done, he's paid so much attention to the detail and things like that, where it's like this set design was really, it had to be intentional because there's no way you had that many mistakes and things that didn't make sense. Like there's 3 shots of the entrance to the maze where Jack ends up dying at the end. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. Wow.
Yeah, just dropped that there. Honestly, it came out in 1980. It's on you if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. You suck.
Well, but that's the brilliant thing about the movie. You know exactly what's going to happen. You know exactly where it's going, but you don't know how it's going to get there.
Yeah.
But there's shots of the maze, and there's like the entrance to it changes in different parts of the movie. Like it just blatantly, they show you like 3 different maps of it, and it doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's like maybe that could be. It's like the descent of. His name's just Jack, right? Because it's Jack. Is his name Jack?
Yeah.
Jack. Right. His real name is Jack too. That's why I was getting confused. I'm like, is his name Jack in the movie or real life? But yeah, it's like they did
Both.
that to. Right. Yeah. Maybe they did that to like. Did he do it like more and more throughout the film as like? Kind of displaying Jack's descent into insanity.
No, and that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the whole movie is built to discombobulate you and make you confused about what's going on and to disorient you about where you are, and it's just so
that's
ominous.
What happens to
like
Jack throughout the movie.
Yeah, well, and I mean even the one shot of when Danny's sitting there playing with his toys and it's like the classic like overhead shot where you can see the carpet and the pattern there, and then the ball rolls up, and then he looks up and it's just an empty hallway, and you're like, okay, what is going on?
This is very sus.
Yeah, and the whole movie is just it plays on that tension, and it drags it out so long to that point where like it almost would be too much, and it to an extent it is too much. I mean, even like the intro to the movie is like a really long wide shot of just the lake and I can't for the life of me remember what actual body of water that is, but it's just like it shows the expanse of the mountains and just a big body of water, and the road going along it, and it's like that for probably 2 or 3 minutes, whereas typically you would have that like establishing shot, and it would there'd be some music, they'd have a couple title cards, and then it would get into the movie. No, this just keeps going. Like the whole thing is perpetually building that tension to the point where you almost want to like just scream, and that's the purpose of it, is it drives you to the brink of it and then gives you just the slightest bit of release and then keeps driving again.
All right, Kyle, what was the name of your movie again?
The Langoliers.
The Langoliers.
Yeah.
Okay, I honestly hadn't even heard of it, so I don't know what this is. What is it?
So the whole plot of this movie is there's this airline flight that passes through this mysterious portal, and only I think it's about like 8 or 9 passengers that make it through. Like they make it through this portal and they stay on the plane. Everyone else vanishes, and they arrive in this alternate dimension version of, I think it's Maine, like the town in Maine where every Stephen King novel takes place. And there's this one little girl who she's blind and like has this whole telling of like this prophecy of these creatures, the Langoliers, that will come and arrive and just devour them all just because they have this voracious appetite. And you can't like hear them very well, but like the sound of them coming closer just builds and builds and builds throughout the movie. And the whole plot of the movie is them trying to get the plane refilled and refueled so they can get back and take off before these creatures come and arrive and eat them. And there's a subplot with one of the characters. His name's Craig Toomey, who's like a broker who works for some large company under his dad. And it's similar to Jack from The Shining. It kind of it's not a descent into madness, but he goes like slowly more and more mad throughout the movie because he's trying to like overcome this fear of his dad. Like his dad was an abusive father, and it just displays this whole kind of thing of him trying to overcome his fear of his dad. And eventually at the end of the movie, when the creatures arrive, like I was talking about with the scene at the table, he has this whole vision, like this weird hallucination of facing his dad and finally just telling him off. And he gets the courage to do that in his hallucination. And as a result, stave off the creatures, like, drive them away from the plane so everyone else can escape. So, and it's funny because he starts as like this, like it introduces him instantly as kind of like this dickish character. Like he's just a piece of work, office worker that just pisses everyone off. But at the end, as much as he makes everyone angry, myself included, I'm like, dude, this guy is just so annoying. He does this one heroic deed that essentially saves everyone else's life that gets stuck in this alternate dimension. So, but yeah.
Sounds like kind of a generic monster film.
I mean, it sort of is, but like it's the perpetual, like much like The Shining, it's the perpetual buildup of what are these creatures? What are they? Like you have no idea what they are. It's just this girl just has this prophecy about it. You're like, what is that? Like, and it just the sound gets louder and louder, and they're like, well, shoot, we gotta, we have to make progress to escape and everything, and try and just live pretty much. Yeah. So.
You said it came out like early 80s, mid 80s?
No, it was 1995. 95.
95.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the same year I came out.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, Bryce. What,
so to speak.
You got any questions for us?
I will say I have a guess as to who it is immediately, but that would be no fun.
Yeah,
so I am going to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be a short BS episode if it just came out. It's like,
I've written it down right here, but I will not. I'm still going to go through the motions. Josh.
Yep.
Do you have an interpretation of the infamous, we'll call it the dog scene in The Shining that you would like to share? For context, it is towards the end of the movie, towards the end of the film, and oh gosh, I can't even think of her name. Jack's wife, the main character of the film. She's running away from Jack. She's scared. She comes up the stairs and she looks into a room, and she thinks and she sees something that is quite disturbing. Which appears to be, for those of you who haven't seen a man in a dog costume performing fellatio on another person.
Yeah. I think part of what it is I think it's furthering that bit of ambiguity of the fact that like we don't know what's going on, and the fact that the guy is in a dog costume and in a mask and we can't see his face, and I mean even the guy that's sitting on the bed, I mean he's got his pants on, and like we just genuinely don't know what's going on, so I think part of the, I don't know, man. That's a weird scene to interpret. Unless, I guess the only thing that I would think could possibly be an interpretation is kind of what he's kind of viewing, like a husband and wife, like relationship kind of should be in his mindset. Of seeing that, it is man's best friend. It's like, okay, I am the man. I am the one that's kind of in control here, and you are supposed to be my companion who is here to do these things for me and to be, kind of at my beck and call.
Okay.
And the fact that it's somewhat performing fellatio or what could possibly be considered wifely duties, is what it's kind of alluding to. And so I think her coming, up the stairs and seeing that, like looking over, is like a bit of a realization of that, like, okay, this is what he thinks our relationship is, and that's not what it should be at all. But again, that's like a loose interpretation. I have done some research on the film and the way that it was made, but I do not claim to be in any way a full educated person when it comes to this film. So that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to Kyle.
Hi.
Kyle, how in your right mind can you select this movie to be the best Stephen King adaptation out of everything?
It's the one I saw most recently. I watched it the first time I watched it was last year when I was still living at my old house.
Greatness by proximity.
Yeah, I mean it's the one that's fresh in my brain. Like I'm very different in my opinions. For like, I pick a lot of underrated stuff, and
Twister.
Like Twister.
like Twister. Like, well, I mean that's an easier one.
I feel like Twister's accurately rated.
What's its IMDb score?
Appropriately rated.
On Game Board Geek, it's like a 4.7
out
of 10.
That sucks, man. Oh well.
Sorry, 4.5.
There are specific things that I liked about it that, like I said, as much as I hated his character, when Craig Toomey finally kind of redeems himself at the end, I kind of like that part, and the sacrifice that Nick, one of the characters, makes at the end to make sure everyone actually gets through the portal and back home. Just small character details like that and everything that I enjoyed about the movie. Plus, it was something different to me. Like, I just like different stuff.
That is true.
Okay.
You're very unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, He's a unique individual.
Very special snowflake, Kyle. Nathaniel.
Yo.
What was my question for you? How did you feel about Mr. Matthew McConaughey being cast in what was the role? What was the name of the role?
So it's the black one, or is kind of what they refer to him as.
Ironic.
Yeah. Honestly, the character felt kind of weird. I didn't think Matthew McConaughey, like going into it, having read the book 4, 5, 6 years prior to the movie. Dang, that's a lot longer than I thought. 6 years prior to watching the movie, if you had asked me before watching the movie or knowing the cast, who I would cast, Matthew McConaughey would not have even been on the list. Casting Matthew
Seems
McConaughey,
like a weird choice.
yeah.
Who would you have put?
I just think in general, just because I like him as a bad guy, Heath Ledger would have been awesome. But then again, it was 2017; he was already gone.
There would have been some issues with that.
Yeah, that
would have been a problem.
That wouldn't have worked.
But if you had
Still
asked
would have
me
been
that,
better than Matthew McConaughey.
if you had asked me that while I was reading the book, well, when did Heath Ledger pass away?
Because
Because that was before the movie came out. So when did Dark Knight come out?
that was sometime, I think. I was still in high school, I think. It was early high school, maybe.
2013?
2008.
2008.
Oh,
Holy
wow. Never mind.
Okay, so no, I read The Dark Tower after that then, so I guess I wouldn't have said that.
My brain jumped to Tom Hiddleston for some reason.
I don't think he would have been great for that role. I mean, now I think Jared Leto would do a better portrayal. But that's just because I like his cynicism and how I just like his acting, which is very unpopular because everyone hated his Joker.
Yeah, we don't need to talk anymore about that. That's about all that needs to be said.
The movie was bad. I don't think his portrayal of the Joker was bad.
We'll talk about that another day.
I don't know. Honestly, my biggest problem with Matthew McConaughey being that character, Matthew McConaughey has a very distinct acting style, which just didn't portray the character like it was portrayed in the book, and then the CG for the character was just done very poorly. So.
Okay. I'm actually less sure than when I first asked them.
That's why we have questions.
Yeah, this is the point of the episode.
Yeah. I think I'm more unsure. So the question is, do I stick with what I originally had pegged or my new suspicion?
You can ask as many questions as you want.
This can be as long as you want it to be,
Yeah.
Bryce.
We're only 20 minutes in, man.
28 minutes
I think
in.
I have
28.
I think I have everything I need to suss this out. It's just, am I going to interpret these correct? And just as a refresher for me, which one of you is the bullshitter was not allowed to do any research?
1 minute, 60 seconds.
Yeah.
I had 60 seconds of research.
60 seconds, yep.
Yeah, just so the fact that we could actually have a conversation and it wasn't just somebody here floundering for
Right.
10 minutes.
Yep. And just so you know, you're not going to reveal your answer now. You're going to reveal it at the beginning of next week's episode.
The next
episode.
Yeah.
So,
to say it out loud.
if you don't have any more questions, then we can end it here and move on, and you can reveal, because we're also going to vote. Our votes don't matter. Your vote's the only one that matters, because we don't know who it is either. We're just going to vote for fun.
Yeah, the difference is you've got technically a 33% chance of guessing it, and we have a 50% chance of guessing it. So,
yep.
I think I have my selection. I think I have a pretty good idea.
Okay. Then I think I do too, actually. So I'm fine with voting now or writing down our votes and ending the episode.
Well, let's call it. And guys, we will see you on Friday. Bye. Well, that's it for today's episode. Be sure to join us on the next episode where we will continue to debate as good friends do. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube and stay up to date on all things Asshat, and to participate in polls and activities throughout the week based on the themes of the upcoming episodes.
We also started a Patreon for those of you who are interested in showing your support in a more direct way. On our Patreon, we have a ton of bonus content, including tier lists, loser dinners, and bonus podcast episodes.
We want to continue making content that makes you think, smile, and especially laugh. And the best way that you guys can help us do that, leave a like or a comment, download and share all these episodes with your friends and family members who you think would enjoy our tomfoolery, our shenanigans, and all those other crazy words that encapsulate our content.